Hope you're doing well. My name is David Wilkerson, and this is Surplus Funds 101. Just want to start off by saying thank you to all the people out there that like the video, subscribe to the channel, or leave comments below. If you were unclear about anything that I talk about in this video, just leave a comment below, and I will get around to answering it as soon as I possibly can. In addition to that, this is another thank you for being a loyal subscriber and watcher. I want to give you a copy of my Claim It Calling script. There's just going to be a digital download link. It's going to be in the description of the video. You put your information in there, and then boom, you send it right over. It'll be in your email inbox, and you can use it immediately. You guys, I know a lot of you guys don't know what to say or are worried about what you can say to a claimant when you're talking to them on the phone. They'll give you some really good framework for exactly how to do that. But with that being said, you guys, let's get into the content of the video. And today, I'm going to talk to you guys about the psychology of the claimant agreement, why I have everything laid out the way I do, and just some things that you can kind of take away and implement in your own business, to start getting good results right out of the gate. Now, we go through here. I'm going to show you, this is the claimant agreement that I send to everybody to get signed. As you can see, it's pretty basic and easy. I specifically designed it that way to reduce any LMR with the claimant. That means last minute resistance. Okay. One of the things that you guys will be dealing with a lot, probably the biggest problem you'll have, is just getting somebody to believe that what you're doing, what you're proposing is real without them freaking out and thinking that you're a scam artist or anything like that. So this agreement is really simple. It's easy the way it's laid out. And it works. It's what I use. And, I remember it was probably 8 or 9 years ago. I was a real estate agent, and I got one of my very first off-market leads, and it was for a small house on a big lot in the best part of town. And it would have been a scraper, plug in like 4 substandard skinny lots in there, and it would have been a killer deal. But this lead was from a lady, and she sounded like a complete laydown, and I was super excited. I book an appointment with her, and I print off the state drafted 8-page RE21, the purchase and sell agreement. And I go over to her house the very next day. We're walking around the property. She's telling me everything about it, and we get down to the brass tacks of the deal, right? And I pull this agreement out, and she's looking at it, and I can just tell by her eye contact and her body language and her demeanor, she started getting really, really daunted. And she was confused. And one of the things that you guys will learn in marketing is that a confused mind always says no. And you don't want to give somebody too many options or things that they can think about, because then if they have to think too much about it, they tell you they want to think about it and they end up not doing it. Okay. So she told me that she wanted to think about it while I was at her house. That's a statement no salesperson ever wants to hear. And I walked away, and I didn't get the transaction. I sat there and I was like, what went wrong here? This lady sounded like she was a complete laydown, And I called her up the very next day, and it was like a night and day difference in the way that she was talking to me. She's like, no, there's all this little fine print. You're going to be taking this away from me. What if this doesn't work out? Or what if this doesn't work out? Yada, 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 right? And so I started thinking to myself, what's the most basic contract that I can create or put in front of somebody that still has all the legally binding aspects of an agreement that somebody can sign to where they can look at it and it's just almost like a handshake deal. Okay, this is the property address. This is what I want for it. These are the terms. Put your name below, right? And so I told that exact same story to my buddy that does a whole lot of houses. He's a flipper here in town. And he's like, dude, my purchase and sell agreements are 1 page. And I was like, how do you get away with that? Like, I thought that the state drafted this agreement. And I had to have this 8-page document. And he's like, no, all you need are the legally binding aspects of an agreement. And so I've gone and done all the hard work, you guys. For most of the states that you're going to work in that don't give you an agreement that they've pre-drafted, if they give you any agreements at all or off from that they've pre-drafted, don't use something like this. Okay, always do exactly what the state departments outline and what they give you. But there are a lot of the states that will say, all right, you're going to need to have your own agreement. And if you don't have one, it's going to be really tough for you to be like, okay, what do I put on there? Like, what's this? Like, what's going on? And so I've stripped away all the lingo and all sorts of small fine print to where this is just basic, it's easy, and it just helps you convert a lot more. There's one place to sign, not a bunch of initial marks or anything like that. And on top of that, let's kind of pull the curtain back a little bit more and look at this thing from the 5,000-foot view, right? Contract that you're going to have people sign, we call it an agreement. A contract's a scary trigger word. That's going to be towards the tail end of the transaction, right? Well, the biggest problem, as I was saying, is you're going to have people, they're going to be thinking that this is a scam. Like, how do I know this is real, right? And so let's look at like the average person that you could be working with. Let's just say that you're dealing with Betty Sue, and Betty Sue lives in Mississippi. She works at Walgreens and she makes 25 grand a year. She's made 25 grand a year for the past 20 years. Okay. When she's not working, her main source of entertainment is the TV, which is super negative. All right. She might have some friends that live there in the neighborhood when she's walking her dog, and most of the time they hedge their conversations on something negative, right? So the way the human brain works is that we need to have a lot of substantial evidence that, what we have is right and what it is true, because we want to verify with ourselves or justify to ourselves that what we're doing is right. And we do that through circumstantial evidence, and so when you're talking to somebody like her, it'd be very easy for her to be like, this is a scam. You called her up and you said that there's a life insurance account, that is owed to her for $15,000. And in her head, she goes, $15,000, that's like half a year's worth of work. That's like 1,000 hours of work. I think the average work year is 2,000 hours, right? And so for somebody like her that has never ever seen a payday that big, not even gotten probably a tax return that big, like that's going to be tough for people to believe is real. And so, like, again, like all these little things add up with the credibility slides I talk about in some of my other presentations, to where like you just want to be able to smooth everything out to where there's the least amount of friction when it comes to any portion of the transaction, or that's going to stall somebody from saying no or not wanting to move forward, right? And so that's why this thing's so easy and it's so simple, right? But I'm going to start from the very, very top here and work my way down. Okay, at the very top, you have your company logo. Okay, now if you don't have a logo, that's fine, that's optional. I put that on the top of all my agreements. As a matter of fact, I put my logo on everything, and like with Surplus Funds 101, I have it on everything. And, it just adds another element of trust. Like when you go get a puppy from a dog breeder, the puppy doesn't know you or trust you right out of the gate, but, the more times you see that that dog sees you, the more it trusts you, the more circumstantial evidence it has that you're going to take care of it, that you're going to feed it like you do every day. You're going to walk it every day, right? And so I have a lot of people that are like, Dave, I went on Fiverr and I went to go get a logo and somebody was trying to charge me $500 for a logo and a press package or whatever, right? And you don't need to do that at all. My logo I created for free on Canva, including the Surplus Funds 101 logo that's on every one of these slides, or just about every one of them. And so you can use that exact same service as well to create one. As far as the logo goes, keep it simple, make it easy, have it something to do with asset recovery, and you should be good there. But if you don't have one, that's fine as well. Right here, company name and info. So I have my legal company name, my PO box, and then the best contact information. I want to make it to where all parties that might see this don't have any problem at all getting a hold of me, whether it be the claimant, the notary, or the State Department. So you just put your information right here. Now, I know a lot of you guys don't have LLCs. That's another big complaint. But David, I don't have an LLC. Well, you don't need to have one right out of the gate, for a lot of states at least. And that's something you can invest in later on down the road. I suggest everybody getting one, just for tax purposes and things like that. But that's where that information would go. Right here, representation agreement to locate funds within the state that you're working, and the legislator ID number, right? Now, a lot of these unclaimed funds websites or State Department websites that you can go to, they're going to have that, or they're going to have a link to it. And that's usually going to outline all the specifics about what they want on paper, but that gets signed between you and the claimant, right? So it's not easy, that's not hard to find. That's usually right there on the website. If you just spend some time and due diligence doing that, it's easy to find. Right here, property description and account IDs. When the State Department gets some unclaimed property, they attach an unclaimed property ID number, and then there's a description of what it is, whether it be a bank account, life insurance policy, or whatever it is, right? And then the amount that that is for, right? So if you're working more than one property, you just put the property ID, the description, the overall, or the amount that that account is worth, and then down below, I always just put total, and then the overall amount right here. And then right below here is the claimant address and contact information. Okay, what you want to do is put their name, their telephone number, the address that they currently live at. That's important. Okay, a lot of these leads that you work, they might have an old address or whatever it is. This address is where the state is going to cut you a check to, or they're going to cut the claimant a check, and then you're probably going to be invoicing them. All right, so it's important that you get the right address, because the last thing you want to do is add any more time to being able to invoice them, so you can get paid. You don't want them to send the check to an old address or the incorrect address. You want to make sure that's right. And when these claimants, when they do in their head internally think, oh yeah, this is a great, I want to move forward with this, and they get committed to it, that's not hard at all for them to give you that information at all, right? Now, preferred contact method and time for claimant. This is optional. You could erase this as well. I like putting it down there because a lot of people, they have habits. People like to go to the gym at a certain time in the morning. They like to run their errands at a certain time in the morning. There's a certain time and contact method that it's easiest to communicate with them on. Like, for instance, for me, like, it's probably the easiest to get a hold of me between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. or between like 2 to 5 in the afternoon. That's when I'm up and I'm going, and I'm probably the easiest to get a hold of. But a lot of these people that you're working with, they may or may not be working day jobs. So if the notary needs to schedule a time to go get all the documents signed, they'll know when to call these people up. So there isn't any added extra time to the whole entire process, AKA. So this whole entire process can move as quick as possible. The claimant can get the check cut from the state, and you can get paid quicker. Okay. Now, a lot of the states, they're going to want the claimant's social security number or their tax ID. Okay, social security number, that is on a birth certificate, so that's kind of a unique way that you can ask for that information. Another thing that they're going to want is a driver's license number and a copy of that as well. Proof of address, proof of ID. Now, some of the people that you work with, they're going to tell you, hey, look, I don't have a scanner, and that might be a big objection, and that they could be like, yeah, I don't have a scanner, I can't get you these documents. Well, most people, even the people that aren't very tech savvy, they have smartphones, and with smartphones, there's a built-in scanner feature. With the iPhone, you just go to the notes section, you click on that little icon of a camera, and there's a drop-down tab, and it says scan documents, right? And so you can tell them to do that, and they can email that over to you. You can print off that document. If they're having troubles, you can walk them through that and coach them through the whole entire process. It's really easy. Okay. And then recovered property amount. A lot of the states on the agreement that you do sign with the claimant, they're going to want to have something there that states that you're getting paid at the cap that they have or less than, right? So what you can do is take all of this, you can just copy and paste if you want, put it down here, or just the property ID number and then the amount down at the very bottom. you tally that up. So let's say that you have 5 accounts totaling $10,000 or whatever it might be, right? And then so what I do is I put the overall amount, and then I put times point whatever the cap is or whatever the claimant agrees to pay you, right? So let's just say it's 0.20 is 20%, right? And then you put the total, which would be $2,000 right there. That's what you would be receiving right there. And then right here, this representation agreement is valid to help claimants recover funds within 180 days of signed agreement. That should give you ample, or give the state ample time to be able to process a claim package and do what they need to do to be able to make sure that the claimant gets the disbursement of the funds that are owed to them, right? This is what makes the unilateral agreement binding. And it's really simple, it's easy. And then you just put the claimant's name, sign, date, your name or your company name, sign, date. And then right here, this is where the notary, they'll take care of the rest of this, right? But just the state you're working in, the county you're working in, right? If you don't know what county it is, you can just go to Google and type in city of X county, right? Or whatever it might be. It's really, really easy to find. And the notary, they'll take care of filling out the rest of this stuff. But you guys, like I've said, this is a really easy way to create a claimant agreement. You know, if you guys don't want to go through the hassle of creating this yourself, I do have a contract library. I'll leave a link in the description. You can pick it up. Of course, you're going to have to remove all of the information that's highlighted and put your own in there. And again, I'm not an attorney. I don't try to be. So definitely have your attorney look everything over before moving forward with anything. This should work though. I just have to give you guys a disclaimer. But nonetheless, you guys, other than that, you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.